Welcome to Domestic Violence. How can you help to stop the violence? My name is Gabrielle Parson. I am the Victim Services Coordinator at Community Crisis Services, and I'm one of your presenters.
Hello, everyone. My name is Maya Brown, and I am the Bossy Aftercare Specialist here at Community Crisis Services, and I'm also another presenter.
Okay, so what are we going to cover today? We're going to go over what domestic violence is, understanding the different types of abuse. We're going to identify some signs of domestic violence, understand the ways that we can help someone in a domestic violence situation. We're going to go over some tips on how to safety plan with victims, and then we're going to go over some of the legal routes that we can take in order to protect victims.
Okay, so what is domestic violence? Domestic violence is any form of abuse or coercive behavior that is characterized by a dominant partner from a current or previous relationship or an intimate partner. This means that you can be in a current relationship, this could have been a past relationship, or you could be sexually involved with this person, who also can be a victim. Anyone of any race, age, gender, or religion can be a victim. In most cases, you see women, or people assume that women are victims. However, there are many men that are also victims as well. There are also many elder persons that are also victims.
Okay, so you may have seen this power and control wheel somewhere. Basically, what it covers is it shows you all the different types of ways that abusers may try to maintain power and control over their partner. And so it gives you different examples. The most common forms of abuse that we hear about would be physical, sexual, and verbal abuse. But there are other types of abuse. We have emotional abuse here. And this consists of an abuser maybe putting a victim down, making them feel bad about themselves. They're maybe calling them names, making them think that they're crazy, playing mind games and humiliating the victim, or making them feel guilty. We also have mental and psychological abuse. This would consist of abusers isolating victims from their family. We hear stories all the time where abusers may take their victim and move them across the country. We have victims who have called in, and when they're living near their family, everything's fine. And then once the abuser gets them away from their family, that's when the abuse starts. You will also have abusers who attack victims' vulnerabilities, forcing them to do degrading things. And then financial or economic abuse. A lot of the times these abusers will keep victims from getting a job. They'll also harass them while they're at work in order to sabotage their career. And then also control all of the victim's finances. So even though the victim may have a job, the abuser will take their check, or maybe they share an account and the abuser has control over what they're using their finances for. So these are all the different types of ways that abusers can take over and abuse their victim.
Okay. As professionals, concerned citizens, and family members or friends, there are some signs that are displayed that may suggest someone is involved in a domestic violence relationship or situation. Some of those signs are she or he worries that their partner will be jealous or suspicious. So, for example, their partner may not like them going to the mall because there are other people there that may show, them attention. The victim could possibly nervously decline in fear that their partner may find out that they were there and retaliate. Their partner also may make most of his or her decisions. This partner may dictate what time the victim goes to the store, and when or where they can go to certain places. Their partner also may criticize them frequently or publicly shame them, saying negative things like, you're never going to be anything, you can't amount to anything, you look, disgusting. Those types of things a big partner may say. She or he also apologizes frequently for their partner's behavior. For example, the partner may throw a fit and storm out of the room in front of a bunch of people. The victim may say, "Oh, he's just tired. He had to work a long shift." That is an example of, a victim making an excuse or an apology for their partner. She or he also withdraws from friends or family. This victim may be very involved with their family and friends, and you may notice that they begin to shy away and are not as present as they used to be. This is a big sign for many people, which is change in their daily behavior. She or he also may change their clothing style, hair or makeup in order to please their partner. In a lot of cases, you will see some males will require their victim to dress or disguise themselves in a masculine manner, such as like shaving their hair or wearing baggy clothing. She and he may also quit their job or get fired for missing work. So in some cases, victims may have sustained injuries such as bruising on visible areas of the body, which may require them to call out of work due to fear of others possibly seeing these bruises and reporting the things that they've seen. She or he also may stop going to social activities such as church or parties. You may attend the same church as someone, a book club, an organization, and you may notice that they begin to lack when being present. This can also be a sign of a person being abused. Lastly, she or he is frightened or seems threatened when their partner is angry. And even though someone is involved in domestic violence, that does not mean that they are prepared to leave their partner yet. In many cases, victims do not leave. And for some of those reasons, they may not leave, one, because they fear that their partner may kill them or someone that they love. A lot of the times, their partners will make threats. If you leave, I'll kill you. If you leave, I'll kill your mom. I'll kill your children. That is fear of death. Another reason is that they may be dependent on their partner. So for example, their partner may be the primary financial provider. Therefore, they rely on their partner to pay the bills, put food on the table, clothe them, clothe their children. And without them, they may feel like they cannot survive. Another reason is that they may believe staying in the relationship is what's best for the child or children. They may also have low self-esteem in this case, where the victim may feel like nobody else will want them or that they can't successfully survive without being with their partner. There are also things such as gender stereotypes and history of abuse. The victim can also be in denial of the severity. They may not believe that their life is in danger or that being with this person is dangerous. They also may be committed to their marriage. So in a lot of cases, there are some religions and cultures where individuals do not believe in leaving or separating from their husband or their wife.
So how can you, as a friend or a family member, or even just a coworker, how can you help? So the number one way that we can help is by not being judgmental. A lot of these victims, they're, like Maya said in the previous slide, a lot of the victims may not even realize that they're in an abusive relationship. And even if they do realize that they're in an abusive relationship, it's very difficult to leave. And so we want to acknowledge that this is a difficult time for them, and just try to be supportive in any way and just listen. If you try to force them to leave, or you're constantly putting them down for staying in this relationship, it could cause them to not want to speak to you anymore. They they can't trust you, don't want to talk to you, and now that pushes them away, so it becomes even more difficult for you to help them. So try not to be judgmental. Just try to be that supportive friend, that friend that's always there listening when they need someone to listen to them. Reassure them that they are not alone and that there is help and support. A lot of times victims, they don't like to talk about what's going on, and they are afraid that they may be alone, and they may not know that there are others out there experiencing this abuse, and then they may not even know that there is help out there. So, if you research and figure out what help there is out there, just reassure them and let them know, hey, there are people that can listen, and be there for you and advocate on your behalf. And there are things that you can do in order to protect yourself and protect your children. If you recognize that they are unsafe, see if you can get them somewhere alone. Sometimes you may witness something that is very concerning, but it may not be the best time to approach the victim, especially if the abuser is around. You don't want to alarm the abuser, and now the abuser keeps the victim away from you. So try to get the victim somewhere alone and safe where they can talk about the abuse, and you can let them know what services are available to them. Do not criticize their partner. The victim may still love their partner, may still want to be with their partner. So criticizing them is not going to help the situation. Do not pressure them to leave the relationship. A lot of times, friends and family members, they just want to do everything and anything they can to help the victim. And sometimes the victim just isn't ready. So you have to wait for the victim to be ready to leave. And when they are ready to leave, that's when you can assist them. But until then, do not pressure them. If they are not ready, they're not going to leave. And if they do leave because you're pressuring them, more than likely they're going to decide to go back. So you want to wait until they are truly ready, because if they decide to go back, it will be more difficult for them to leave the second or the third time. So just try to wait until they're ready. And when they are ready, that's when you can help them to come up with a safety plan. So when they're leaving the relationship, this is the hardest time. This is the most difficult time, is when they're planning to leave. This is very dangerous, them leaving the situation. This can upset the abuser. So you want to make sure that you have a safe plan and that they have a safe place to go. And you may even want to go over your safety plan and with an advocate, and just make sure that this is well thought out, and a safe plan. Encourage them to talk to people that can help and provide guidance. That may be a hotline advocate or legal, maybe an attorney. Maybe they can speak with someone and get advice on what they need to do legally to protect themselves and their children. And then also continue, and this is very important, continue to provide support even after they do leave. A lot of times you're providing all of the guidance and all of the assistance that they need in order to leave, but maintaining once they leave the relationship is very difficult. So you want to make sure that you are continuing to provide them with the support that they need, so they won't feel like they have to go back. So how do we come up with a safe plan for them to leave? You start off with speaking to your local domestic violence service provider. And if you do not know who that is, you can contact the National Domestic Violence Hotline, and they will connect you to your closest domestic violence service provider. And so once you do get in contact, you want to figure out what services are available to victims in your area or in the victim's area. Once you do that, you then can help the victim to find a safe place to go. Now, a lot of people will resort to family or friends, and this may not be a safe plan or a safe place for them to go, especially if the abuser knows where these individuals live. And they may want to try to go back and fight for their family, and they may try to do anything that they can, and that may include violence, and it could put the family members or the friends in harm's way as well. So you want to try to find a safe place where the abuser doesn't know. And if the victim doesn't have a safe place to go, consider going into a safe house. Help the victim to prepare an excuse for a quick escape. This may be the victim's only way out. Most abusers do work, but especially at a time like this, a lot of the abusers are home with victims. So you want to try to plan for some type of quick escape. Maybe the abuser, if the abuser doesn't work, maybe the abuser is planning a trip. Maybe they're going to a family member's house to help them put something together. Maybe this will be the time that the victim can leave. Or maybe what you can help the victim do is plan a doctor's visit or a play date with your kids and their kids, and that will be the victim's way out of the home. And from there, the victim can leave and go to a safe haven. Come up with a safe word or phrase with the victim in case there is an emergency. So this would be just something that you and the victim come up with, so that when you receive a text message, or maybe you all are on the phone and you say this phrase, and you immediately know, okay, the victim's in danger, I'm going to send help, I'm going to, or maybe your plan is to go and pick up the victim at this point. Just come up with some type of safe word or phrase with the victim so that when there's an emergency. Help the victim to prepare an escape bag, and make sure that when they do prepare an escape bag, it's filled with just essential items only. If you need to, keep the bag yourself, because if the abuser finds this bag in the home, it would alarm them, and it could cause more harm to the victim and their children. So just make sure that if they do put a bag together and they can't leave at that time, keep that bag at your home. Or you can also encourage the victim to make copies of their important documents, because a lot of times abuser will take their documents in order to keep them in the home. So encourage the victim to make copies of these documents and then keep them in a safe place, whether that's with you or someone else they can trust. Help the victim to file a protective order or extreme risk protective order. We will go over the difference in the two a little later on in this presentation. And if they leave, encourage them to turn off all location services on all of their devices. Now, most of the time when we talk to victims and we get them to turn off their location services on their phone, once they get to the safe house, or once they get somewhere where they're staying with a family or friend, they forget to turn off their children's location services on their devices. We live in this age where children have there's all this technology. Children have tablets, iPads, iPhones, smartphones. Just make sure that the children turn off their location services as well. And for more tips on how to safety plan with victims, please see our safety planning guide on our website. Now, who is your local domestic violence service provider? If you live in Prince George's County, if you or the victim that you are assisting lives in Prince George's County, you can have them reach out to Community Crisis Services. The services that we provide for victims of domestic violence, we have our 24-hour hotline, which is listed here on the screen. We also have our Safe Passages Emergency Shelter. This is the safe house, the one and only safe house in Prince George's County. So if a victim needs to get connected to a safe house, they will reach out to the 24-hour hotline. and they can be placed at any time. We also run the lethality assessment program for Prince George's County. We have our virtual protective order assistance, which you can access by calling the hotline. The victim would be connected to an advocate, and they will go over how to apply for a protective order. And then we have our domestic violence chat line, which is starting on June 1st. And if the victim is not in Prince George's County and they are looking for services, they can still contact this hotline and we can connect them to their local domestic violence service provider.
Okay, so let's discuss legal ways a victim can protect themselves and or their children and property that they may have. We're going to discuss protective orders and extreme risk protective orders. So they are two different orders and they do have to be filed separately. So a protective order is an order that is issued, it is a civil order that is issued by a judge that orders a person to refrain from abusing you. It can require them to vacate the home. It can provide temporary custody of children or any temporary possession of any pets that you may have. It also can establish temporary visitation with children. It can award use and possession of any vehicles you may share or have. It can also order counseling, order abuser to pay filing fees and court costs. And it can also award family emergency maintenance, which can require your abuser to continue to assist with the household duties that they were assisting with, such as rent or mortgage or things of that nature. The emergency risk protective order. It is a separate court order which requires a person to surrender any firearms or ammunition to law enforcement. The defendant also would not be allowed to purchase or possess firearms or ammunition. This person also would have to pose an immediate and present danger of causing personal injury to themselves or others by having these firearms.
So who can file for a protective order or peace order versus who can file for an extreme risk protective order? So protective order and peace orders, they're very similar. The difference is who can file. So when we start with that, you have the current or former spouse that can apply for a protective order. Someone respondent shared an intimate relationship with and resided with for a period of 90 days within the last year. You would have to be related by blood, marriage, or adoption. Share a child or children in common. You had to have had a sexual relationship with the person within 1 year of filing for the protective order. It would be a parent-child or step-parent, step-child relationship, but you had to have had resided with this individual together for at least 90 days within the past year. And then there's the caretaker, vulnerable adult relationship. Now, if your relationship does not fit in any of these categories, then you would file for a peace order. Now, the extreme risk protective order is very similar to those who are filing for a protective order, but you will see two other individuals added at the bottom, which is a law enforcement officer and a medical professional who has examined the respondent. So these are the individuals that can file for a protective order. If they do not fit into the category that's under the protective order, then they would have to file for the peace order. And then these are the individuals that can apply for the extreme risk protective order.
Where can you file these orders? So for a protective and a peace order, you can file them at your local district court or circuit court. If the district or the circuit court are closed or it is after hours, you would then need to go to the commissioner's office to file the order. For an emergency risk protective order, You can only file that petition at a district court. Again, if the district court is closed, you would then go to the commissioner's office. And here are your local district courthouse and commissioner's office here in Prince George's County. As you can see, there is a district courthouse and commissioner's office in Upper Marlboro, and there's also a district courthouse and commissioner's office in Hyattsville.
So once you file for your protective order, what can you do? You would keep your protective order in a safe place. This is not something that you file and you store away. And if you do keep it and file it and store it away somewhere, you still have to make sure that you have multiple copies on your person. And then, you know, in case you may forget it somewhere, it's good to have an extra copy in your car, in your wallet, purse. You also want to make sure that your children's schools and daycares have copies and that they are aware of the situation, so that if your abuser is on the list to pick up the children, the school is aware that the abuser should no longer be able to pick up the children from school or daycare. So just make sure that they are aware and that they have copies of the protective order in case they need to call the police, then they can show proof that there's a protective order and the abuser should not be around. You want to also keep a copy at your job. This way your managers, your supervisors, and security, if there is security at your job, they are aware and will contact the police should there be a need for them to contact the police. If you go to church, if there's any friends or family members, houses that you visit on a regular basis, you want to make sure that there are copies there. Just in case you forget your copy, it's good to have one somewhere. It's good that you have an extra copy at the places that you visit on a regular basis. If the protective order gets destroyed, you can always get another copy at the clerk's office. And if the abuser violates the protective order, contact the police and report the violation. And so we have come to the conclusion of our presentation. Hopefully you've learned some things today. If you have any questions or concerns, or if you are in need of more resources, you can email either myself or Maya, and this is our information. And just visit our website for more information on the services that we provide.